We are cooking with gas now, baby. I had to pause there for a second. Somebody was dropping off a package. Okay, so I find my little Airbnb place, my little bedroom, right? And I was like, okay, I feel good here. I feel safe here. It was like a soft place to land. And that's when the real work began. Okay. So you have to understand too that up to this point, I've been on my own since I was 16. I became a mother at 19 to my first daughter, and then my second daughter at 23. I've never been married. Those relationships never worked out. I've always ended up being single. I am very wild-hearted. I can't be tamed. And I definitely attracted a certain type of man that always saw me as a challenge and thought that he could tame me, and they've always left disappointed, you know? So by this point, you know, before I went through that death, up to that point, I was pretty set in my survival ways, right? I had been doing things my way for a very long time. I really had a problem with authority. You couldn't tell me shit. I was a bartender, so like that just comes with a certain level of, what's the word I want to use here? Like, you gotta have tough skin to be a bartender, okay? And I could bullshit with the best of them, and I did have this thick layer of armor on at all times. I didn't ever want anybody to see what was actually inside. For a long time, I would go out into the world and project myself as this super tough, confident, capable chick. And then as soon as I came home and I was like in the safety of my own bubble, I would just crumble, I would just fall apart, and I just felt so insignificant and so unworthy, and yeah. So I had developed a lot of bad habits and coping mechanisms and so many limiting beliefs and so many things that I had forged out of survival that when I left my environment, world as I knew it, behind, and I go all the way over here, and now I'm at the beach where nobody knows me and I know no one, I had two choices in front of me, because I could have very easily chose to bury all that shit in the sand and put on a new identity and go out into the world and just pretend and just forget about it all and just go and be carefree and just, I could have done that. And I can promise you that I would have, a year from then, actually, you know what? Hold on. Let's back it up for a second. Let me tell you that I had two options. Because what I was leaving out unintentionally, I just wasn't thinking about it, was that whenever I went to the ocean, how I went there was that my best friend from my hometown had moved to San Antonio, and she had invited me there for the weekend, and I could have went there and I could have stayed there, but instead I went to Corpus Christi. And I guess it's fine for me to say where I was now because I don't live there anymore. So I could have went to San Antonio, and I could have like talked my best friend into letting me stay there with her, and I could have gotten a bartending job in San Antonio and restarted life in San Antonio with my best friend, and just went into this kind of like fast life, new life, whatever. And if I had done that, a year would have went by and my life would have been shit. even if it looks cool on the outside, even if it looked like I was out here doing all of these fast, fun things, I wouldn't have been sitting with myself. I wouldn't have given myself a safe space to explore my emotions and just feel my emotions. I wouldn't have taken accountability for the shit human I had became out of survival mode. I wouldn't have been able to heal and repair my relationship with my daughters and take accountability and give them a safe space and do all of the things that I ended up doing. So I definitely was presented with a choice that felt safer and more known because my best friend was there. And if I would have been like, hey, look, I really need a place to stay, I really need to start over, she would have made that work for me. She would have let me sleep on her couch. She would have definitely been supportive of me getting a bartending job and staying there and da-da-da-da-da. And I could have done that. And it would have been another false reality I would have been creating. So Spirit presented me with two choices because this other one, I didn't even know where I was going. I didn't know I was going to Corpus. I didn't know. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to keep driving. I'm just going to keep driving. I'm just going to keep going to the beach. Right? I'm just going to keep going. And I did. I just kept going. And I just ended up in Corpus at the beach. And just knew. And there was no turning back. And I just knew. And I just knew. And I just knew. And I just kept following that knowing, even though it was completely unknown. I had no fucking clue what was going to happen. I was fucking homeless. And I just trusted that. And I didn't want to pretend anymore. I didn't want to pretend anymore. It was time for me to come home to myself. And I did. So I go and I'm in this room for the next 8 months where I just give myself a safe space to fucking cry when I need to cry, even if I don't know why I'm crying. Because I had this tough girl mentality for such a long time that I would get mad at myself. I would get angry with myself if I cried, and I would call myself names, and I would fucking be like, you're not gonna fucking cry, suck it up, get out of the house and go fucking drink, be a tough girl. And to the point where I had blocked my emotions for such a long time that I didn't even know which emotion was which. I didn't know how I felt or why I felt that way. I didn't know where this was coming from. I would have these emotional tidal waves, a fucking hurricane all over my life. I don't even know why I feel this way. I don't even know what it is. I just don't know. I didn't understand myself at all. So I went and I created this safe little cocoon for myself to kind of just dissolve into it, and I allowed myself to cry whenever I needed to cry. And I would praise myself for it, and I fucking hated crying. I hated the feeling of crying. I hated it so much. And then something happened where I noticed that every time I would cry, I would go into the bathroom to blow my nose, and I would have a glow, and I'd be like, wait, why do I feel pretty right now? I feel pretty. And so I fed that. I was like, man, I'm so pretty after I cry. I have after cry glow. And so I fed that, and I realized that I had this choice of what to feed. You can keep feeding the negative, you can keep feeding the fear, or you can feed the love and the joy. And sometimes you gotta fake it until you make it. And I really am so hesitant of saying that because it's such a fine line. But sometimes you gotta keep showing up and saying, baby, you got this. You're good. You're a good-hearted person. Trust yourself. You can do this. You're beautiful inside and out. Sometimes you gotta say it even when you don't mean it. You gotta keep reassuring yourself. You gotta start reparenting yourself. You gotta if you had parents that always fucking screamed at you and told you were a worthless cunt, you gotta start being no, you are worth your weight in gold, babe. You are brilliant. You are so worthy to be here. The world needs your light, even when you don't necessarily believe it in that moment. Sometimes you gotta do that. And so I did do that, but I also was very real with myself and holding accountability and being you can't keep making these decisions that really aren't beneficial to you or others, and in fact kind of hurt other people, and expect for good things to come out of it. Like, you have to take accountability. You have to get real with yourself, sis. And I did that too. So it's a